Congratulations to the Colorado Avalanche. They are the 2022 Stanley Cup champions as they defeat the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 6 by a narrow score of 2-1. So, hey, all the Avs fans out there, a lot of you have joined the channel through the course of the postseason, and I wanted to say congratulations, and I hope you guys are celebrating right now and not letting up one bit, just like the Avs didn't let up whatsoever with how aggressive they played in the neutral zone. That surely was a spectacle and a clinic that they put on over the course of this game, especially as things went along. So really the Avalanche, just a well-earned championship, especially having to go through a two-time defending champion in the Lightning, and I'll talk about them a little bit later as well. But for now, the Avalanche have finally broken through, and after a couple of second-round disappointments like last year against Vegas, they struck through, and they won convincingly, of course, in the first round against Nashville. In the second round, they beat the St. Louis Blues in 6 games. That Preds series was a sweep, by the way. And then they swept the Edmonton Oilers. So overall, very dominant going into this series against Tampa. They were the dominant team in the first 2 games. Then they certainly had a hiccup in Game 3 in Tampa, but then were able to just eke out that win in Game 4. And kind of similarly here in Game 6. But again, it was that forecheck and just how aggressive they were in standing up the Tampa Bay Lightning in the neutral zone, and the Bolts only got, I think, like 22 shots on goal. So really just neutralizing a lot of big factors for the Lightning as that game progressed. So congratulations there. Darcy Kemper came through when they needed him most. I know that certainly there was some controversy about him starting every game as the series went along, but tonight he was very sharp. That one-timer save he had off of Nikita Kucherov was magnificent. The lateral movement that he needed to do that, and then to clearly just retrieve the puck and keep it, in his breadbasket there. A great job. What really did jump out at me, though, of course, was how the Avalanche just perfectly, I think, hoisted the Stanley Cup trophy and how that got passed around too. There's so much more I could talk about with the game, but I really want to point this out. I loved how Landeskog, he raised the cup, he took it around a little bit, and then he passed it to Erik Johnson. I think that's fantastic, considering he's been with the Avs organization forever. And this was his first trip to the final, and he finally had a chance to lift the Stanley Cup. So that warms my heart, kind of like how the Blues did with Jay Bouwmeester, and a little bit reminiscent of even something like Ray Bourque back in 2001. So 21 years have gone by since the Avalanche have had a ceremony like that, and I think they executed that well. Of course, they handed the cup to Andrew Cogliano. It got handed off pretty early to guys like Darren Helm and Jack Johnson as well. So really enjoyed how they honored the veterans of the game. I think that, those guys work their tail off, even if they play in a different jersey many years, leading up until now. So loved that. The Conn Smythe went to Cale Makar, and I think that they were saying he became the youngest defenseman to put up, I think, at least 29 points in 20 games, or at least at that ratio, in 52 years. There was this guy named Bobby Orr back in the early 70s who did that for the Boston Bruins. So Makar, I think that he certainly could have earned the Conn Smythe in the eyes of a lot of you out there. The point total really speaks to it. But, when I look at the Stanley Cup final, I think that maybe there were better players for the Avalanche over the course of that series, but the body of work for Makar, I think, speaks for itself. So I think that that's pretty fair. Landeskog, I'm a little bit surprised it didn't get handed to him. A couple of you pointed out in my Conn Smythe trophy video that maybe Valeri Nichushkin should have been awarded the trophy. And you know what? He was unbelievable tonight as well. In all 3 zones, I would say. I said his name many times over the course of our live stream, in addition to Artturi Lehkonen, who, by the way, was pretty quiet up until this game, in this series, that is, and then comes through with the absolute monster goal to put the Avs on top 2-1. So Avalanche getting contributions up and down the lineup, and I think that even some of those older guys for them, guys like Cogliano and Helm, were just absolutely a menace out there for much of the postseason. So really loved the brand of hockey that the Avalanche play throughout the playoffs, whether they were on the power play, whether they were cycling the puck in their own zone. Seeing somebody like Devon Taves, who finished top 10 in Norris Trophy voting, really come through as a spectacular defenseman, and he was really the backbone for the defense tonight too. So overall, just a lot of praise for the Avalanche, and just a lot of fun that I've had over the last several weeks with the Avalanche fans and those supporting the Avalanche as well. Denver sports first championship since 2015 when it was the Broncos. And before that, the Avalanche were actually the last team to win a trophy in Denver in 2001. Among the major sports, I think the Rapids might have won a championship in there as well. I used to work in MLS, by the way. Now, as for the Lightning, I don't think you can entirely count them out next year. Andrei Vasilevsky is still 27 years old, and he was great tonight. Nikita Kucherov is still 27 years old, I think, and he was pretty darn good tonight too. And so you still have Stamkos out there. You have Hedman still out there. You still have a lot of those key pieces for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Maybe they need to get a little bit more mobile out there, I would say, with defensemen. They don't have the speed to keep up with a team like the Avalanche when it comes to cycling the puck. But even so, man, that is one of the best teams we've seen in recent memory, in this era. I mean, the Penguins won back-to-back cups as well, but the Lightning are a team that I think is perhaps going to scare other teams in the next postseason or two as well. So still, congratulations to them. They did this without Braden Point. Not that the Avalanche didn't have their litany of injuries, because they certainly did. Sam Girard, Nazem Kadri, Andrei Burakovsky, and all the injuries they had in the regular season, not to mention those, because they looked incredibly dominant for much of the regular season. But the Bolts still, go into next season as probably the class of the Eastern Conference. They thumped the President's Trophy winners in 4 games. They took out the New York Rangers when they were down 2-0. They beat the Leafs. They won 2 series against the 2 best offensive clubs in the regular season. So they certainly do earn my praise. And so congratulations to another fantastic year on their end as well. But for the Avalanche, man, this team is going to be legit for a number of years to come, because, yeah, it is a bit problematic when you look at Cap Friendly to see that they have so many free agents, right? Guys like Nichushkin, Burakovsky, Manson, just to name a few for them. They have also other grizzled veterans who are going to see the end of their contracts as well. But they do have almost $26 million in cap space to play with. So that could help them a little bit. McKinnon is just entering his prime, essentially. Landeskog, still fantastic. He could have won the Conn Smythe. I didn't even talk about that. I think that he maybe had the best series of any Avs forward out there. And so you have the key pieces. You have Makar. Maybe goaltending, you try to find a way to upgrade over Kemper. He is a UFA. But the way that the team played as a defensive unit really, I think, supported Darcy Kemper about as well as they could have done. So I think they're still a threat for a number of years, for sure. 2 other things I wanted to bring up regarding the Avalanche, because this team did prove me wrong over the course of the postseason. I'll be flat out honest with that. First of all, they didn't let other teams get under their skin too much. I thought I saw a little bit of that in Game 5 with the Bolts. I thought the Blues were going to absolutely stick it to the Avalanche in the second round, with agitators out there like David Perron, leading the charge there, and a couple other of their bigger players maybe able to assert themselves more physically. But the Avs, they laid plenty of hits in the playoffs. Even Makar was laying some big hits, and they just didn't take dumb retaliation penalties. That didn't hurt them over the course of the postseason. They did a really good job with that. I thought Tampa would have had a chance to maybe play a similar game against Colorado and agitate them. Guys like Corey Perry, right? Wow, 3 straight Stanley Cup finals and no cups for him. I know some people are celebrating, but he's had one hell of a career nonetheless. But I thought he would have been one of those players, and Pat Maroon for that matter as well. But for most of the series, those guys just really weren't factors out there. Maybe Maroon a little bit more so. The Avalanche, they stuck to their game, and that game was a much more threatening game than what I gave it credit for. We saw it tonight in a 2-1 game. They don't need to win these games 6-5. They can play shutdown defense because they have the right schematic, right, for how they're going to shut teams from just even entering their own zone. So that really blew my mind. And the second of which, of course, eventually they got to Vasilevsky. They got to him enough, even though, their first series of goaltenders, right? They played, Connor Ingram and David Riddick. They played Jordan Binnington a little bit, who was, very sharp, but then we'll scrap that whole narrative. Ville Husso, right? And then Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen. So they eventually got through the best goaltender in the world, especially in the playoffs. And they did that by just hemming the Bolts in their own zone and cycling the puck. And that team defense, which I thought was even better than Vasilevsky throughout the playoffs, eventually buckled a little bit, or they would take some dumb penalties. And then the Avs made them pay on the power play early in the series. They were 5 for their first 9. Not as effective later on, but even so, even in this game, I could tell that the Bolts were gassed against this Avalanche attacking defense, if you will. So a huge credit to Jared Bednar. Hopefully he gets a chance to win a Jack Adams at some point because, again, 5 years ago, they were dead last with only 48 points in the 2016-17 season. It wasn't lockout shortened or anything like that. And, early on in his tenure, they showed signs of being a threatening team. And they completed their game over the course of a couple of years there. And certainly getting guys like Josh Manson at the trade deadline, Andrew Cogliano, bringing in somebody like Darren Helm, elevating Nichushkin, and in the playoffs, Lehkonen. Even though Burakovsky was kind of demoted as a result of that. They certainly have shown that they are, the class of the NHL. So we're going to have a lot more exciting hockey to watch in Denver in the years ahead. And lastly, I want to sign off. I just want to say thank you guys so much for your support for this channel through the postseason especially. Because, man, we grew at a lot faster rate than I would have expected. We surged through 3,000, 3,500, 4,000 subscribers. And right now we're on the doorstep of 4,300 as I make this video. And I didn't think we were going to be anywhere near there when the playoffs started. And just the enthusiasm of you guys. Good overall etiquette in our chat. I want to call that out because, that was one thing that was kind of holding me back from doing these streams in the playoffs. But you guys were magnificent. So I appreciate every time you guys could join, every time you left a thumbs up, commented, super chatted, shared my content elsewhere. So that, that becomes the blueprint for what I want to do in the future. So in the off season, I'll run more live streams. My next video is coming out pretty soon. It's going to be a review of the ESPN documentary Unrivaled, which is certainly interesting for those Avalanche fans out there. We'll get some Red Wings fans in our comments as well too. So I have all sorts of content and more live streams planned throughout the off season. We'll do a jersey giveaway at 5,000 subscribers. And by the way, last in name, if you're watching this, you won our bracket tourney challenge. So I'll give you a $50 Cool Hockey gift card or $50 in Twister Wrister Hockey merch. You just have to email me. See the video description down below. But there's a lot that I'm going to be planning for the future of this channel, and I want you guys involved. So I'll be sure to solicit some feedback for you guys, and we'll hopefully grow and attract more great hockey fans like yourselves, people who appreciate not just what's happening on the ice, but the culture of the sport, the history of the sport, and all the fans who comprise it. So thank you guys so much, really. I was just on a different planet seeing how this channel was taking off, at least from my end of things. You guys helped me blow that out of the water. So thank you very much. And Cortana thanks you as well. She loves you. So anyway, that's going to do it, guys. Congratulations to the Colorado Avalanche. It's been an absolute treat watching them throughout the course of these playoffs. And all you Avs fans out there, you better be selling really freaking hard right now. All right? So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure if you enjoyed this video, leave a thumbs up. Comment down below your thoughts on the Avalanche winning the Stanley Cup final. And I'll see you guys around for all sorts of content throughout the offseason. So thank you. I'll catch you later. Ciao.